Welcome back to the new Yachtsman channel. Today I want to talk about the actual process of buying a yacht. How do you get started? The first step is to get on the internet, and the most popular website to research yachts in the class we're talking about is called Yacht World. Just go to yachtworld.com. You'll be a little overwhelmed at first. There are a lot of filters and it's not a real user-friendly site. But once you poke around in there, you'll quickly figure out that you can search within a price range, you can search within a size range, and you can search within the style of boat you're looking for. Be careful, there are a lot of filters in this website, and if you turn on too many filters, you just don't see very many boats. Very much like when you're searching for a house in an MLS system. If you get too specific, you don't get a lot of the things you would care about. So once you're in Yacht World, you're going to find that a lot of what is there are used boats. And a lot of the best information you're going to find early on is about used boats. But even if you're really interested in finding a new yacht, researching the used models first is just fine. Finding a 2 or 3 year old yacht that's for sale, the listing about that boat may be more complete on the used market than it is from the manufacturer. So don't be afraid to look at the used boat market, even though you're interested in a new yacht. It'll help educate you much better than just looking at new boat listings. There aren't a lot of new boat listings. Many of the boats in the class you're looking at are built to order, and there's not a lot of inventory. So it's very common to not find very much from a new boat manufacturer about a new boat because many of them are built to order. Once you find a boat in Yacht World and find a brand, whether you're dealing with the new boat manufacturer's representative or you're dealing with the used boat representative, you're dealing with a yacht broker. And in the next session, I'll go more into yacht brokers, but the yacht broker is very much like a real estate agent. And just like a real estate agent, there are yacht brokers that are representing the listing side or the selling side. And there are also brokers that would represent you on the buying side. And you can also work with a broker that does both. Some customers feel like they are better served by having two separate parties in the agreement, just like you would in a real estate deal where the buyer's rep is your rep and there's a seller's rep on the selling side. I quite often have both sides of the deal. And I find that if I know the boat very well and I'm treating both sides fairly, that works very well for me too. Just depends on your style. I don't think there's a lot of conflict of interest on the buyer and seller side in this type of market. The boat is what it is, the market is what it is, and I find that the prices tend to settle in a fairly narrow range. So I don't think there's a big advantage in having two separate brokers in a deal necessarily. That being said, you need someone that's representing you well. And when someone is representing your interests, probably the most important thing to you is that they know a lot about the boat. And in many cases, the person that knows a lot about the boat is the listing broker or the manufacturer's rep. It's very difficult as a yacht broker to know everything about all the different brands. It's actually impossible. You tend to focus in a fairly narrow range of brands. You get repeat buyers on those vessels, and you end up in a niche market. Unlike a real estate agent, which may sell houses from 200,000 to 10 million, yacht brokers tend to live in a fairly narrow range of product. They're either representing $50,000 to $250,000 boats because that's the marina they're working in, or they're representing very large 100+ foot yachts in Fort Lauderdale because that's the arena they're in, or whatever their niche is. Once you and the yacht broker have come up, identified the boat that you want to make an offer on, whether it's new or used, an offer is drawn up, just like a real estate deal. You would typically sign a contract that says, I'm willing to buy the boat for X dollars. And there is usually a real deposit in a yacht brokerage deal, more so than in a house. Where in a house would be a very small down payment. In a yacht brokerage deal, the sellers usually want to see a 10% deposit, if not up front, then within about 3 days. The reason for this is that the process of actually evaluating buying the boat once the offer has been accepted is relatively long, and the seller of the vessel wants to make sure that you're serious about buying the boat. Doesn't really matter to you. You're going to end up paying for the whole boat, but just expect to have 10% of the value of the boat tied up for that, say, 30-day period between when you have contract agreement and when you have closing. Your offer is a fairly simple contract, much like a real estate deal, but it has a couple of special things. In a house, you would do a home inspection. In a yacht, you're going to do a marine survey. And a marine survey is done by a professional that's much better trained than your average home inspector. The marine surveyor has to go to surveyor school and become accredited. And this accreditation makes the insurance company happy, and it'll definitely make you happy because they're very picky about the things they're looking for. They want to make sure that this yacht is not going to sink at the dock. They want to make sure it's not going to catch on fire. So they have a lot of reasons to want this survey beyond the things you're looking at. They're looking at details about code, about whether things were built correctly, maintained correctly. And the result of this survey will not only go to you, but it will go to your insurance company. And your insurance company will not insure you unless this survey goes well. And if there are issues, that the seller or you agree to fix it before closing if it's a bad thing, or soon after closing if it's a fairly minor thing. But the deficiencies have to be addressed, unlike a house. When you do the survey, it's going to be a little scary. When this survey comes back, it's going to talk about pages and pages and pages of deficiencies, and that's normal. The yacht has a lot of systems on it. A lot of the things in the survey that come up as deficiencies are fairly minor. Something's rusty, a whole hose clamp needs to be replaced. There's just going to be a lot of little stuff. Don't let that overwhelm you. What you're more interested in is, how do I address the major issues? You should expect the seller of the vessel to correct the things you did not know about before you surveyed the boat. So if you walk up to a boat and you know it needs a paint job and you know it needs varnish work, then you considered that when you made your offer. If you walked up to the boat and you thought everything was perfect and everything looked great, and then the survey uncovers an item that costs $50,000 to fix, you should expect the seller to fix that item, because that was not something that you expected to find when you made the offer on the boat. This is kind of a sticky area. But the survey is not designed to be a renegotiation point. The survey is designed to find deficiencies that probably neither party knew about, and for the buyer and seller to agree on how we're going to address those issues. Now, there's a lot of detail in how that is handled, but you can't always expect the seller to address every issue. For example, the survey comes back and says the boat could use a bottom job, but it's not really bad. It's not normal for you to make the seller repaint the entire bottom of the boat at his cost. In that example, maybe you guys split it. But the point is, after the survey, the buyer and seller and their brokers work together to try to figure out a fair way to address those deficiencies. Those deficiencies are usually expressed in an acceptance document. And the acceptance document says, I'm willing to buy the boat just like I said I was, except I want you to fix X, Y, and Z items. Or what I prefer is, except I would like you to credit me, say, $25,000 for survey items. And then maybe you list the top 3 things that that's going to address. And everyone involved knows what those things were that came up on the survey. Once that's done, you sign a document that's called acceptance. It says, I want $25,000 credit. The seller signs that, and now you have acceptance of vessel. Once this vessel is accepted, you go to closing. That process is usually about 2 weeks. Just like in a home where you are going to go to a title company and with title insurance, and you're going to look for liens and things like that on the house, the same thing happens on a yacht. The yacht, they go through actually a Coast Guard application to see if there are any maritime liens on the boat. If the vessel had a loan, they go to the mortgage company and figure out what the loan satisfaction is for the seller. Um, there's a process by which the money that you're paying for the yacht lives in escrow for a short period of time, and any debts are cleaned up, and then the brokers get their commission, and the seller gets his money, and you're closed on the yacht. So that's the overall process, not unlike buying a home, except this inspection process is very specific to yachting, and there's a lot to learn there, but don't be overwhelmed by it. The key here in the beginning is doing your search, being able to identify the kinds of boats you think you want, going out and getting on some yachts, introducing yourself to some different yacht brokers, and figuring out kind of which direction you want to go. I really think you need to look at 5 or 6 different styles of boats in the beginning. And once you've identified the style you and your family like the most, you should look at least 5 or 6 different boats of different years, of different sizes within the range, and really get educated by different listing brokers on what they're saying about these boats. And this process should take you a couple of months to get educated. It's very easy to get excited about a particular boat in the beginning without knowing enough to know whether it's really going to suit your needs for how you want to use the boat. Yachts are beautiful. They're all pretty beautiful. You can imagine yourself living on any of them, but you have to be realistic about how much time you're going to spend on it, where you want to go, how fast you want to get there, and how you're going to use and maintain the boat. A little bit different than a house, because I like to say that a yacht is a house and a car. It's also a vehicle, and how you use the vehicle has a lot to do with the function of the boat as well. That's it for today. And in the next session, we're going to talk about the yacht brokers you're going to interact with in more detail. Please like and subscribe this video if you enjoyed it.